information about Japan comes from anime and manga, you start to think that Japan is some type of utopia, submissive, kawaii girls that, and I think also that's why a lot of men go to Japan, because they think Japanese women are, and that they can live the fantasy that they've always wanted from the anime they've watched. Wrong. I think a lot of people end up getting very disappointed because they held Japanese society at such a unbearably high standard that, you know, when you go to Japan and your expectations fall short, then I think it causes a lot. Konbanwa minasan, kyo desu. Today is more of a personal video. I'm going to be talking about what I used to think about Japan when I was younger. But before I get into it, just make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Like most Westerners, I was introduced to Japanese society by anime and manga. It was a vital part of my childhood. I've been watching Japanese cartoons or Japanese animation since I was a young boy. Such series in America that were very popular was Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Z, Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho, and the like. I think for a lot of creatives or young kids who are just nerdy in nature, we definitely gravitated toward Japanese style of animation. And this is long before the internet was developed, so a lot of our information about Japan usually came from backyard talking or just rumors that young kids would say. Like, for example, when I was younger, we used to think that Japan was such in the future as far as technologies wise. Like, we thought like Japan, everything was like in the year 3000 where everything is like this, just technically advanced. I remember when I was a kid, a lot of my friends, we all thought that, you know, Japanese people can watch TV from their Nintendo DS. Also around the time like 2005, we all thought that Japan was finished with Naruto. We just thought that Japan was like completely ahead of us, like centuries in the future, and that we were just catching up to the Japanese people. That's what we thought as kids. And again, if a lot of your information about Japan comes from anime and manga, you start to think that Japan is some type of utopia, because the feeling you get when you watch Japanese anime that's very much centered in Japan, most of it, there is a kind of sense of feeling that Japan is a magical place because the anime that you watch makes you feel good inside. So it makes you feel good about Japan because of that. And definitely if you were somebody who had a rough upbringing, maybe you weren't raised in the best family, you come from very unfortunate circumstances, or maybe you were rejected a lot in your childhood or just had general problems connecting to making friends. A lot of people went to Japanese video games and anime to kind of escape real life and to kind of just numb themselves from the realities in their personal lives. I remember in 2016, 17 was probably the worst anime addiction I've had. I would only, after work, I would come home and just watch nothing but anime all day long. And through that time, that was one of the most depressing and terrible moments in my life, because there was a lot of things that were happening. And the best way for me to feel good was to indulge myself in manga and anime. And I think for a lot of people who went through similar ordeals that I did, is that you find a sense of acceptance from consuming Japanese content in which you feel like anything's possible because of the nature of how Japanese write their stories. So like many people, including myself, you have the idea, I want to visit Japan because of how much Japanese content makes me feel good, or how much it helps me escape from my personal problems. I want to go to Japan because maybe there I can finally find peace or find some kind of leverage or some kind of like, I guess, fulfillment in life. And I believe that's what happens with a lot of foreigners, in which they start believing Japan is going to be the solution to all the problems in whatever home country they come from. And if you're like me, at one point in your youth, you start to hate the country that you live in because of a lot of the experiences you've had, or because of the media propaganda machine. So you start looking at other countries as a comparison, or at least a better place or a better society. So for example, when I was in high school researching about Japan, it was crazy to me that Japan had local, that everyone respected each other, that there was, you know, the place was clean, the food was great, you know, that Japan had a lot of creative freedom, things like that. Starts to make you think that Japan overall is a better society than the country you live in. However, we all know no country is perfect, and when you travel or live in a different country, you're usually exchanging some problems for other problems. And I also think there's a lot of people who are in my boat, in which that you didn't know much about life. All you knew about life was really from anime and manga you've watched. And a lot of Westerners tend to forget that anime and manga is fantasy. A lot of it is not real life, it's fiction. And I think when you come from circumstances in which, again, you don't have the best background or best upbringing, you run to anime for comfort, but you tend to want to have that fantasy life that you see in the manga you read and the anime you watch. And then for a lot of people, anime, manga, or Japanese entertainment in general tends to consume them, to which it's their only identity. Like, I remember one point I couldn't really talk about anything else. If the person I liked, or if a girl I liked didn't like anime and manga, I didn't want to be with her. To me, I've always had to have really deep philosophical conversations. Like, it was really hard for me to do small talk. And again, my view on relationships was heavily influenced by anime, which again is not real. So I believe a lot of people take the information they get and they apply that to actual Japanese society. Of course, as I've matured over time, I've been to Japan twice, and again, it's one of the best experiences that I've ever had, ever. I've come to have a more realistic view of Japan, that Japan is a beautiful country, the Japanese people are beautiful. I've met some of the best people in my life from Japan. But I also understand Japan is a very flawed country as well. It's not perfect, and even though anime and manga may portray Japan as a paradise, it's not real. And I think by understanding that Japan is flawed, you actually give Japan a lot more respect because of that. And even when it comes to dating, like, a lot of men have a Japanese woman because of, it's a lot of times the type of they watch. They think that Japanese women are just these submissive kawaii girls. That I think also that's why a lot of men go to Japan, because they think Japanese women are, and that they can live the fantasy that they've always wanted from the anime they've watched. And I think in this point in my life, I've had the most balanced view of Japan compared to when I was younger. I love Japan, and again, it's extended more than just anime and manga. I love other aspects of Japanese society. I think for most people, anime and manga is what gets them interested, but if you research Japan and actually go there, you end up actually falling in love with Japan itself. But a lot of foreigners, I will say, don't really like Japan. They just like anime culture that is influenced by Japanese society. And I think anyone wanting to move to Japanese society or live in Japan, I think it's better to have a balanced worldview of Japan. Of course, there's some things that Japan does better than most countries, but then there's also some things that Japan is behind on some things as well. But I think it's a disservice to think that Japan is this perfect place that can do no wrong. I think a lot of people end up getting very disappointed because they held Japanese society at such a unbearably high standard that, you know, when you go to Japan and your expectations fall short, then I think it causes a lot of people to get depressed. I love Japan. It's one of my favorite countries and favorite societies in the world. I can't wait to go back and visit after almost 10 years of not being there. But it just goes to show that when you're only interested in one aspect of a country, you can get a lot of misconceptions or a lot of things wrong. You know, but I think that's most Westerners or most foreigners who think of Japan usually from that angle, from the anime they've watched. That's usually the conclusions they come to. But yeah, that's what I used to think about Japan. So please let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Also hit that bell as well to get notified whenever we post a video. Honto, arigatou gozaimasu. Minna, 気をつけて。じゃあね。